Well, good morning to everyone. I'm so very happy to be here with you today. We're breaking up our news today in about 4 different segments. And so you're going to notice that there will be few that you'll see, okay? So we're going to go right into today's topping story. I want to say hello to everyone who is joining me live, as well as those who will be joining us in the replay. So believe it or not, we have a first. And that first is a former prisoner that is coming out of the state of New York. He is in a first time former prisoner takes a seat in the New York State Assembly. Now, if it were just my time to be comical, I could say a couple of things, but I won't. We're going to just stick to the facts, ma'am. As far as Eddie Gibbs knows, that he is the first person that was elected to the New York State Legislature who previously served time in prison, but shortly before his inauguration, he recalled wondering if he could ever shake the stigma of his manslaughter conviction more than 30 years ago. Gibbs, 53, won handily as the Democratic candidate in January. On January the 18th, special election in the State Assembly 68 District to represent the East Harlem area, the New York City neighborhood where he was raised by a single mother in public housing. Gibbs says that his past shapes his legislative priorities, including improving the lot of his district's disproportionately high number of public housing tenants and making it easier for people to be released from prison to re-enter society. As a teenager in Upper Manhattan in the 1980s, selling illegal crack cocaine seemed like the most obvious way to leap out of poverty, something that he now calls, quote, a terrible mistake. Goes on to say that you don't think about the repercussions. Back then, you didn't think about them because you just made money and you were happy. He said in an interview at the community center in James Weldon Johnson houses, the city-run apartment towers where his mother still lives now to this day. But he's quoted as saying, but I was also a target for a lot of people. Now, the part that I really want to bring focus to was, even though this was an assemblyman's position, and it's not necessarily something that's really, really huge, right? I want to take special note at someone who was specifically at his inauguration, which is the reason why I'm bringing the story to you today. Chuck Schumer, the majority leader of the United States Senate, was among the prominent New York politicians to speak at his inauguration. Quote, but did Eddie get angry? Schumer said, no, he has such a good heart, he said. I'm going to do better for everyone else, closed quote. That comes again from Chuck Schumer. The New York legislature does not have any records to confirm that Gibbs is the first elected representative. And there has, and I'm just going to be me for a second. I have to just, you may not have any record that he's the first, but I definitely doubt that he's the first person to be elected who was ever found guilty of a crime or however, committed a crime. But nonetheless, it does go on to say that he is the first elected representative to have been previously incarcerated. And the spokeswoman said, but the New York Democratic colleagues welcomed him no matter what. They go on to say that they are very proud of the diversity that exists in their conference. And this comes from Carl Hasty, who made a statement regarding this young man. He goes on to say that we are certain that his unique perspective combined with his longtime commitment to his community will be an asset to the people's house, close quote. Soon after his release, Gibbs took comedy classes and performed stand-up under the name Good Buddy, hoping to offset the notion that people should be afraid of someone convicted of a violent felony. He ended up working as a driver for about a decade for the celebrity criminal defense attorney Murray Richmond, who encouraged him to enter politics. After an early unsuccessful challenge to the 68th district seat, Gibbs ended up instead becoming the Democratic Party's district leader, a volunteer role. Now, he has first priorities in passing legislation to remove some of the obstacles young people leaving prison can face, securing state identification. Wow, I'm going to just keep going. When you come out of prison, he says, you have this rap that you're a bad guy. And I wanted the community to see me in a different light, he says. Now I'm going to show you the picture of this nice gentleman. I don't have any, I don't have a heaven or hell to put the cat in, but I do have some comments about it. And I'm just going to be candid with you guys and let you know that the comment that I have about it is the fact that, let me take the banner off so you guys can see this. But the issue that I have is the fact that we are saying, okay, I don't have a problem with people coming back into society. That is not the issue. This just seems a bit convenient for me. It just seems a bit convenient. Now, to some, it may not. To some people, it may seem like it's just no coincidence at all. But when you have somebody like Chuck Schumer show up at your inauguration, to me, that speaks volumes. Absolutely volumes as to the plans that you may have for the community. I just have to say it. So I appreciate each and every one of you for tuning in right now. We're going to go on and be back here in about another 15 minutes as we have a couple of other news stories that we're going to be looking at. Hopkinson, I want to pay close attention to make sure that I say hello to you. And thank you so much for sharing this out as well. Thank you so very much for making sure that you were here very early, as a matter of fact. I thank you. Mindy B, it is so good to see you. Thank you for being here. And M. Leslie, it's always a pleasure to see you, kind one. Listen, I will be right back with more stories and more news, and I hope that you can as well. Until then, we'll see you soon. Like a perspective.